So we got out yesterday and like we had to go down to Brickyard to get some gas, and I saw Britt's boat going by, which I was like, this one I text.
What an interesting.
All right, it is 5 o'clock. Appreciate everybody being here. We are going to get started with our work session for our 6 o'clock meeting. First on the agenda is approval of minutes, May 20th, 2024. It was a work session, no quorum notice. May 21st, 2024, 9:30 a.m. council work session. May 21st, 2024, 10 a.m. council meeting. May 23rd, 2024, 9 a.m. special called council meeting. Any questions on those? All right, set public hearings, resolution 24095, approve abatement of unsafe conditions at 425 Vine Street Northwest. Set public hearing for Monday, July 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m.
Mayor, City Council, Chris Fordyce, Community Development. This is a grocery store that's it's been in disarray for quite a while. We haven't been able to get any traction, any movement, any kind of corrections from the owner. We asked it just to go ahead and set forward for demolition.
All right, any questions for Chris? All right, thank you. Public hearings, resolution 24096, approved request for special event retail liquor license by WIT LLC, doing business as JW Steakhouse for Dene and Blanc on June 8th, 2024. You probably need to just, I know we've had said it, but just give us what it's for.
This is the request for a special event retail liquor license, just every year, the Dene and Blanc by JW Steakhouse.
All right, any questions on that one? All right, resolution 24097, approved request for off-premise beer and wine for Circle K Stores Incorporated, doing business as Circle K Store 270-9302 at 2400 Beltline Road, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
Circle K purchased this store from MAPCO, so they are now purchasing their own license.
Okay. Any questions? All right, resolution 24098, approved request for off-premise beer and wine for Murphy Oil USA Incorporated, doing business as Murphy USA, 7885 at 2800B, Spring Avenue Southwest, Decatur, Alabama 35603.
And this one is for Murphy USA. They purchased the location from Walmart.
Okay. Any questions? All right, resolutions. Resolution 24099, assess demolition costs in the amount of $18,080 against 609 3rd Avenue Southwest. David?
This is just an assessment lien. We've already done the demolition.
All right, any questions? All right, resolution 24100, assess demolition costs in the amount of $17,126 against 1616 Danville Road Southwest.
Same with this one.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 24101, award bid number 24015 to Bagby Elevator Company Incorporated for lobby and jail elevator upgrades, being the lowest responsible bidder. Jeremy?
Yes, sir. We held a bid opening on the 9th, invited 17 vendors, and only had Bagby to respond. One change that I think Stephanie printed out for all of you is that the initial funding was approved between FY24 and mid-year adjustments, but there is an additional $6,840 that will be needed to meet what was bid.
All right, any questions? All right, resolution 24103, approved 2024 consolidated annual performance and evaluation report.
Yes, Alan Stover, Community Development Manager. This is our annual report that we're required from HUD to submit each year. This basically just goes through our accomplishments for the year. Just to let the council know and the public, we were only able to do this year 5 first-time homebuyer program assistance. That is still a program that continues to be a citywide program. We assisted again 5 homes in 4 of the 5 districts. We continue to do construction at the Seville. We now have 14 homes that are completed with homeowners in those homes. We have 2 that are under construction, 2 that are completed, awaiting closing, and we have 1 more lot that we will construct a house home. And the last thing is public services. We spent $50,818 over a variety of public service projects. Youth services being our main project. We assisted over 5,000 youth, with back to school jam, tutoring programs, work readiness programs. So, we do a variety of things with the youth through youth services. PAC, we do a carrying car program where they assist in repairing cars for those who need their cars repaired to get back and forth to work. Mental Health Association, they have a Project REACH program to where we assist with incontinence supplies and diapers for dementia and Alzheimer's patients. Volunteer centers, we do wheelchair ramps. We also purchase air conditioners and heaters for those elderly who needs air conditioners through the summer that doesn't have air conditioners, so the Volunteer Center does that. Commission on Aging, we assist about 75 seniors at the Turner Searles Resource Center with a nutrition program each day, and we also do daily activities there. We're really proud of our program. One of the things that, as I said, the Decatur Home Program has been down. Next month we will have our action plan that will present what we're going to do for this coming year. We're going to look at some way that we can maybe jumpstart that program because it's been a great program over the year. We've helped well over 300 first-time home buyers become home buyers, and it's the last couple of years it's been down, and that's because of the fact that the market is just it's to the point now where low to moderate income families are having a hard time finding quality homes. I think that's why the Seville has been such a success. We're going to look at some ways that we maybe can increase the down payment assistance that we're doing now and maybe assist with some discount points to help them reduce the interest rate for their homes for first-time home buyers. So I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have.
It's good stuff. Thanks, Alan.
It's good.
Any questions for Alan?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Resolution 24104, accept recycling partnership grant for the purchase of recycling carts. And I guess both of these, right? Resolution
Yes.
24105, accept recycling partnership grant for facility upgrades.
One to Tyler Landfill and Recycling. Back in November, we requested you to approve an application to work with the Recycling Partnership, which is a nonprofit organization that works with Indorama, 3M, Coca-Cola, also Walmart, and they work with municipalities like ours to improve our recycling program. One of the things that we want to do is to get everyone, right now, most of our constituents have a 64-gallon cart. We want to upgrade everyone to a 96-gallon cart. It's just a convenience because we do have a bi-weekly program. And the bigger the cart, we want you to fill it up even more with so we can divert as much. I know it sounds funny that I'm saying this from the landfill, but I have a dual role. So, but this is a great opportunity to get some assistance in regards to purchasing recycling carts. And so we can have an opt-in program, which we plan on having 2 of them this fall and also in the spring. This will help us buy the first set of recycling carts for the fall, and then we will budget for the spring, which would be the second opt-in, where if you have your 64-gallon and you're happy with it because you don't like the size is perfect for you, or you don't have a big home, and that's fine, we won't pressure you to get a 96-gallon. But however, we want to offer the 96-gallon to the 11,000 households that aren't recycling with us.
Okay, any questions on that one? All right, then the next one.
Oh, and the next one is also, well, I was only applying for carts, but they're really a great group. Anyway, so they want us to help us. Right now, you know, we're in the middle of our expansion. We are adding 3,000 square feet to our tipping floor. And you know, we have our partners with Athens, Coleman, of course, Morgan County, Limestone County, and the recycling has increased for us. And these folks are willing to help us with the expansion, but they're going to help us purchase a baler and also a bobcat, so we won't have to worry about providing that money from, the enterprise fund. So that's the portion of the second resolution.
All right, any questions on that one? Thanks, Wanda. Resolution 24106, authorize the mayor to accept the EECBG to replace HPS fixtures with LED fixtures.
This is a formula grant that we received from the Department of Energy. We got this originally probably 6-8 months ago, and I was very leery of some of the requirements, and I think I've talked to some of the council about them from the standpoint of it was going to require us to do an energy efficiency strategy plan, and was going to require us to be carbon neutral by 2050. I just felt like that at that time was probably not something that we wanted to commit to. But in talking with the Department of Energy and DU, we went back and forth, and we were able to commit to the fact that we were just going to commit to replacing all of our street lights to LED in the next 5 years. I think we're down that. I mean, in talking with Jody, with DU, I think we're way down that road to getting all those replaced anyway, so it wasn't like that we were committing to something that we weren't already going to do. So what this will allow us to do is just replace a portion of those HPS fixtures with LED fixtures.
Okay, any questions?
So, who's the electrical guy with the DU team?
They're not here.
So the high pressure sodium's that's a 400 watt high pressure sodium and good for about 40,000 hours of life, as opposed to the LED will be greater than 10 years.
That's right.
It sounds like a good plan. And to clear better light.
Yeah, plus less in. I mean,
Kent see her. Kent knows. Am I right?
You're right.
Thank you.
About 20% of the energy.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
thank y'all.
Resolution 24107, approve authorization of the Baker Foundation at its expense to enter into a contract with Scott Scholl, an architect with Scholl Markland Architecture LLC to prepare bid-ready plans for restoration of the chapel located in the Decatur Historic Cemetery. Ms. Maloney?
Thank you. Greetings to the mayor and the city council. I am Gay Blackburn Maloney, and I am here on behalf of Cindy Baker Strickland, the president of the Baker Foundation. I have with me Trudy Gresham and DeLoyne, both of whom have been long involved with the renovation of the Decatur Historic Cemetery, along with the Baker Foundation and the Decatur Legacy Cemetery Society. Since 2017, the Baker Foundation has led the way for the restoration of the Decatur Historic Cemetery. Phase 1 included tree plantings and the erection of entrances in 3 places in the Decatur Historic Cemetery. This phase 1 has included the planting also of many, many trees leading to the restoration of a tree canopy of the Decatur Historic Cemetery. Phase 2, as envisioned by the Baker Foundation and led by Ms. Strickland, includes the renovation of the building, the historic structure that is commonly referred to as the chapel. The Baker Foundation, at its expense, would like to engage Scott Scholl of Scholl Markland Architecture to bring forward the plans that it has, the schematic designs that have been prepared in the past by James Barganier. Unfortunately, Mr. Barganier has since passed away, and Scott Scholl has prepared to take his plans forward to bring them bid ready. We recognize that the city would be involved at the point of taking it forward for a bid, but the Baker Foundation, at its expense, would like to engage Mr. Scholl in bringing these plans forward and to continue the public-private partnership in place between the Baker Foundation and the City of Decatur.
Any questions for Gabe? I'll just comment, we greatly appreciate your work and Trudy and DeLoyne and especially the Baker Foundation for the money, the blood, sweat, and tears put into the cemetery. So thank you all for that, and thank the Baker Foundation as well. So that's my only comment. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Resolution 24108, approve MUB expenditure for construction of new wastewater treatment plant, influent pump station, headworks, and Moulton Street collector for $119,905,329. Ray.
It takes a minute to get that out.
Yeah, sorry.
You got to advance those slides for me. Thank you, gentlemen, Mayor, Council President Ladner. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. We have to present to you tonight two projects that really go together that represent the largest single investment that the utility board has ever made at one time. These projects are the culmination of about a little over 3 years of design work, and we're really excited to start to get these underway. The basis of these projects is really designed to deal with mitigation and elimination of SSOs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done up to this point and how we're moving forward. But just to recap, the next slide talks about an agreement we entered into with ADEM 3 years ago that was designed to reduce SSOs, and that involved a number of things, primarily some engineering work to look at hydraulic analysis of our collection system, as well as the capacity and hydraulics in the treatment plant. That report yielded numerous recommendations of things that we needed to do, and we're going to talk about those two projects tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy Evans to talk about our collection system projects that we've been doing, and then Tom's going to talk about the plant, and then I'll close it out and answer any questions we can.
Thank you, Ray. Good evening, Council, Mayor. Hope everyone's doing okay this evening. So on the slide you see before you, in 2021, DU implemented an accelerated pipe replacement program in our wastewater collection system. And since then, our pipe bursting efforts have replaced over 325,000 feet of clay sewer mains in the system, along with 5,000 associated service lines. As indicated in the blue on the map before you on the slide, the mains and services that we've replaced to date were mains with large amounts of inflow and infiltration, which contribute to our sanitary sewer overflows that Ray talked about earlier. Because of this, we're seeing positive results so far, and our plan is to continue the pipe bursting efforts in the future in order to continue to eliminate inflow and infiltration in the wastewater collection system. Next slide, please. A large portion of our collection system flows to the Moulton Street collector line that's indicated in red on the slide before you. We currently have a 42-inch concrete collector line, a 36-inch ductile iron collector, and then a 20-inch clay line that becomes a 24-inch clay line just a few hundred feet from the wastewater treatment plant. Because of the current wastewater treatment plant influent pump station dynamics, along with the lack of collector main capacity, it creates a surcharge condition in dry and wet weather conditions. And surcharge condition means simply a pipe that's flowing full with little to no room for additional flow capacity. The new 60-inch multi-street collector will provide a significant capacity upgrade that will improve our surcharge conditions as well as replace aging gravity sewer. This new 60-inch collector main will replace the old 20-inch clay collector that I mentioned. We'll leave the 42-inch and 36-inch in service. And this will provide us additional flow capacity within the sanitary sewer collection system for not only current demand, but also for future demand. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom to talk about the treatment plant upgrades.
All right, here you see our existing headworks and our dry pit wet well. The blue lines coming in are force mains, and what those are, that's coming from our lift stations, and that is force pumped into the wet well wastewater plant. The green lines are what we're talking about, or what Jim's talking about with the gravity mains coming in. We have a 24-inch, a 48-inch, a 42-inch, and a 72-inch coming into the plant for gravity. Next slide. Here is again the existing in red. The proposed new pump station will be in the yellow. We'll have some demolition work we'll have to do of the original old headworks from 1958. But we have had that engineered, and there is room to install what we need in that location. Next slide. Here, just for illustration purposes, all the pipe comes into one wet well, but I've got it shown in two different pictures so I can illustrate the surcharge conditions that our hydraulic capacity model showed. You see the 24 and 42 coming in the left-hand side picture, and we've got about 3.3 feet of free discharge, meaning there's that much free space for the water to flow in before it starts to surcharge. We do meet minimum submergence requirements there, which is the amount of water that we've got to have over the pump to keep it from drawing in air and creating damage to the pumps. On the right-hand side, you see the 72-inch coming in. To meet that minimum submergence requirement for the pumps, we are about 9.5 inches surcharged to meet that minimum submergence requirement. So we're in a surcharge condition in that 72-inch pipe, even though we're not surcharged in the 24 or 42 under the current situation. Next slide. This is the new proposed design. It's really all about elevations. The new wet well will be almost 12 feet deeper. It will give us a little over 6 feet of free discharge and then a little over 2 feet of operating range. So we'll have about a total of 8 feet of free discharge to maneuver with, and we will meet a new minimum submergence requirement with this wet well as well. This is a model result of the 60-inch collector. The green line is the ground elevations, vertical lines are the manholes, and the blue line is the flow in the pipe, and the red line, the surface elevation of the flow in the pipe. So you can see from that illustration that we have no surcharge in the pipe coming to the wastewater plant. And then this is just a rendition, engineer's rendition of what the new headworks will look like. All the influent will come in to a free discharge condition, so we will not have that surcharge and greatly reduce the risk of any SSOs in that basin. This is also engineers' rendering of what the new wet well headworks will look like. It gives us a lot of operational flexibility. It's got screening, fine screening, coarse screening. It's got aeration to keep grease and fog busted up in the wet wells. We're spending about $50,000 to $60,000 a year each year having fats, oil, and grease pumped out of the wet well. Creates a lot of problems for our pumps and our operations. We'll also include odor control, new odor control that will minimize odor, but to be crystal clear on that point, it is a wastewater plant, And we always will have some amount of odor, although we do expect a marked improvement over the odor that we've got right now.
Back on the grease, that's why we require grease interceptors.
Yes, sir, that's right.
Okay, so this recommendation comes to you from our board who approved this last week. But if I'm in your shoes, I want to first know how we're going to fund this. And so as a reminder, a little over 3 years ago, we went to the bond market and borrowed $165 million to fund this program. We've made almost $4 million in interest since that time. The middle section shows all the projects that are either complete or under contract right now. Those are funds that are committed to be spent. That's almost $71 million. So we have $98 million in that bond fund to fund this project that we're here talking about. And so which means we will fund an additional 15 out of our cash reserves to complete this project. Next slide. So our cash reserves are very strong. One of the things over the last couple of years, most of our capital projects have been focused on SSO mitigation. And so we've been building a little bit of cash from our operations. And so our cash reserves are strong. We expect that to be a little over $35 million by the end of this fiscal year. And as I said, we will use $15 million of that for this project. The expenditure also includes some contingency that the board approved, and that's why the number comes to $119,905, and that includes 5% contingency on the 5% contingency on the plant project, 10% contingency on the Moulton Street project, for a total of $119,905,329. The existing headworks, as we've talked about, is at the end of its useful life anyway. It's got to be replaced whether we were in this kind of program or not. So this is the right time to do this. The free discharge that Tom talked about is critical to making this work, to keeping surcharge from happening up in the system. And really what that means, and we saw this with every lift station that we've replaced in the past 15 years, the way these lift stations were designed, they weren't deep enough, so they were using the collection system as storage. And so that really just didn't give the storage, the collection system enough opportunity to deal with rainfall when cracks in the lines started taking on water. So that really the biggest thing we're doing here is creating a deeper wet well to give free discharge and then adding capacity on that pipe. You know, we really looked at what size pipe needs to be done here. A 54-inch probably would handle this job, but there was almost no price difference to do a 60-inch pipe, which should give us even more useful life out in the future to accommodate any growth that could happen. So we'll be glad to answer any questions and or any discussion.
Any questions?
What's the schedule if this is approved? How long will it take to get this project started and completed?
The Moulton Street pipe project is about a 2-year project. The plant project is closer to 3 years.
Just a comment. Thank you for Decatur Utilities addressing our SSO issues and the improvements that have been made. And this will be the capping it off, I guess, in certain ways.
Well, you've seen the news coverage. We have had 2 years without an SSO, rain-induced SSO, and we're real proud of that. But we've also come through a kind of a dry period. We don't feel like this problem is solved until we get these projects done.
Thank you.
I have one.
Well, I was just going to ask, the pipe bursting is going to continue though, correct?
It is. We
continually
will
replace.
With the current projects we have in place, we will reach a little over 400,000 feet of pipe replaced with the debt fund, with the bond funds, and then we'll continue to cash fund that annually as part of our normal rehab.
I know the original plan was to replace 1 million feet of pipe, 100,000 a year for 10 years. We were a little ahead of schedule. This is a little bit of a change, which you've talked about in here before. Can you just briefly go back, kind of how that change in the original plan happened?
Sure. So the original 1 million feet pipe idea came before the engineering studies were done that were required as part of our consent decree. That study really revealed the problems at the plant that we needed to deal. So we really reallocated about half of the pipe bursting funds to this project. And so we're going to end up closer to 500,000 feet by the time we finish this project than a million. But as far as the effectiveness of reducing and eliminating SSOs, this project is the key to it. And then we will, like I said, we're going to continue to do that rehab annually like we always have and try to continue that pace. Although it'll be a lower pace than what we've been doing the past 3 years.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thanks, Ray. Resolution 24091, approval of lease agreement with Elizabeth W. and Bingham Edwards as part of proposed Greenpoint Ag project. And then Resolution 24092, approved sublease with Greenpoint Ag for parking lot. Herman?
Yes, of course, we've shared this information twice before. The only change to what we presented before is to update the date of execution. Those choose to approve it. Just as a reminder, it brings Greenpoint Ag headquarters to downtown Decatur, which is about 100, or approximately 100 employees. It upgrades the property across from where the Renaissance Bank is presently. That'll be their headquarters plus a training center. Where Renaissance Bank presently sits, or the old building is now has been owned for years by the Bingham Edwards family. That building would come down, Greenpoint would raise the building, then they would provide approximately 130 plus parking spaces. 20 of those spaces, or up to 20 spaces, would be Greenpoint designated 24/7. The city of Decatur would have 15 spaces 24/7. And the remaining spaces from before 6 a.m. and after 6 p.m. would become public property parking, and that gives us some additional parking at night. And that's important for our downtown. It's a good segue if you choose to approve this. Lee Street into Bank Street, and that's basically in a nutshell what we have. It's a the rental is starts out $7,000 per month. Greenpoint will cover 1,500 of that is an inflation each year of 2.875%, and it's a 30-year lease and a 30-year obviously sublease. It's important for them and for us to have long-term parking downtown.
Okay, any questions? All right, ordinances. Ordinance 244586, approved street name change from Acra Lane Southeast to Sand Hill Lane Southeast.
How y'all doing? Tommy Williams with the Planning Department. The applicant is requesting a street name change from Acra Lane Southeast to Sand Hill Lane. They are the only person that fronts Acra Lane, and the Planning Commission passes April 23rd.
All right, any questions? All right, we'll get started at 6 o'clock.
Are you going to
Yeah.
That gumball machine? Did you win a little ball game?
No. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Dane Shaw will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Father, we're grateful for this time to come together as a city. We thank you for the wisdom you've given us. We thank you for the peace that you've given us. And we just thank you for this time just to make the decisions, Father, that best reflect you. We give you all the glory and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dane. Roll call. Here.
Here.
Here. Here. All right, first on the agenda is approval of minutes. First is May 20th, 2024, work session, no quorum notice. So moved. Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second. Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those minutes are approved 5-0. Next is May 21st, 2024, 9:30 a.m. council work session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye. Aye. Those minutes are approved 5-0. Next is May 21st, 2024, 10 a.m. council meeting. Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMasters. Mr. Faruqi had signed in on these.
Good day.
Hello.
Hi. The reason I brought this up as a concern is the council minute meetings talked about resolution 24089. And it was noted in the minutes that we needed a qualified person in the public information officer's position. And I think Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry, you agreed with me on that point. Have you identified the requirements yet for what that person would do for us in case the Browns Ferry nuclear facility has an issue and we have to?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, yes, we have Chief Thorne, we have a plan.
Yes, sir, we do. It would be part of the unified command that we use with any federal facility. Any organization would be set up for that. That's right, but the EOC is very type of emergency.
So the critical incident commander would fall out of Oregon County, and we would be responsible for providing a PIO who works for who?
So I think what you're talking about specifically is the agreement between us and Browns Ferry. Is the city will provide a public information officer. It can be anybody assigned from the city to provide it.
So you haven't identified that yet, have you, Mayor?
Yes, sir. We would use Irene.
Who is it?
Irene with the with the police department.
Okay. And she's not an officer, as I understand it.
That's right.
Okay. And is she the same person that's been responsible for all of the chief's public information opportunities?
No, I don't think that she's doing all those, no, sir.
Is she doing any of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chief put out a plan talking about 6 steps, proactively communicate and educate citizens about his plan is one of them. So is the same person going to be responsible for doing that?
That's a big question you need to ask the chief.
But you're the mayor.
I am.
Okay, and he works for you.
He does.
Have you asked him that question?
I did not.
Has anyone asked what the public information officer's
I'm not going to go through this
responsibilities
with
will
you,
be?
Mr. Faruqi.
I'm sorry?
I'm not going to go through this with you.
What is that you're not going to go with?
What's your end game?
My end game?
Yes, sir.
Is for this council and you as a mayor to start doing your jobs.
Okay,
That's my end game.
We're doing our job. We're very capable. You're nitpicking on this.
Nitpicking is investigating.
Okay, we've got it covered.
And checks in the mail.
We got it covered.
Okay. There's also a comment in there about other business. Am I still on time or?
Yeah,
okay.
A little bit more.
Mr. Marks introduced the Greenpoint deal, $7,000 a month at 2.875%. That's $3.8 million over 30 years. There are no new 6-figure jobs coming to the city, as I understand it, and I'm sure someone here will correct me on that. No new requirements for homes. The Decatur 1 plan specifies QP 1.3, which you're familiar with, Mayor, because you're the one that highlighted that to me in your office. Specifies to perform a return on investment analysis. Has that been done on this plan?
So this will be a decision that you hear the council vote on tonight. You can ask your questions about their thoughts then.
You are signed in on that topic as well.
Okay.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
May 21st, 10 a.m. council meetings approved 5-0. May 23rd, 2024, 9 a.m. special called council meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMaster. Yes, sir.
Okay, you're all going to vote, and I'm sure it's going to get passed. The Greenpoint deal, I really don't have a dog in the fight, could care less. However, I did realize that you as elected officials do have a fiduciary responsibility to carry out the duties in a manner that is faithful to the public trust that has been reposed in you. That includes a duty of care. Examples of a breach of this duty includes failure to attend meetings, failure to investigate, to look into some of these issues, like police activities that have happened in the past. A failure to investigate is your fiduciary responsibility, Mr. Mayor. Would you agree? Sure. Okay. Failure to engage in a deliberate process. I would offer the current legislative deliberate process here within the city does not exist. It is not deliberative. It is a spend plan. We're going to spend $119 million, I think I heard, work session. Okay. And then you also have a responsibility to vote, which you do very, very well. Like that. Just maybe take some time to think about what we're doing here, folks.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Abstain.
Aye. May 23rd, 9 a.m. special call meeting is approved 4-0 with 1 abstention. Next is set public hearings. Resolution 24095, approve abatement of unsafe conditions at 425 Vine Street Northwest. Set public hearing for Monday, July 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m. Chris?
Mayor, City Council, Chris Williams, Community Development. This is 425 Vine Street Northwest. It's been ongoing for quite a while now. The owner has failed to abate any of the situations. It continues to deteriorate, and he has to just go ahead and set this for consideration. That way we can continue to work with them if their feasible plan comes up. If not, we can move along with the demolition and clear that neighborhood.
Okay, any questions? Thanks, Chris. Next is public hearings. Resolution 24096, approved request for special event retail liquor license by WIT LLC, doing business as JW Steakhouse for Dene and Blanc on June 8th, 2024.
In the Anders Revenue Department, this is a request for the annual Dene and Blanc by JW Steakhouse.
All right, this is a public hearing. We'll open the floor now if you want to speak on this item. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed. So moved. Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye. Aye. Resolution 24096 approved 5-0. Resolution 24097 approved request for off-premise beer and wine for Circle K Stores Incorporated, doing business as Circle K Store 270-9302 at 2400 Beltline Road, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
Circle K purchased this location from Matco, and they're obtaining their own alcohol license now.
All right, this is a public hearing. We'll open the floor now if anyone wants to speak on this item. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed. So moved. Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye. Aye. Resolution 24097 is approved 5-0. Resolution 24098, approved request for off-premise beer and wine for Murphy Oil USA Incorporated, doing business as Murphy USA 7885 at 2800 B Spring Avenue Southwest, Decatur, Alabama 35603.
And Murphy USA purchased this location from Walmart and are obtaining their own license.
All right, this is a public hearing. If anyone here to speak on this item, you can speak now. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution 24098 is approved 5-0. Resolutions. Resolution 24099, assess demolition cost in the amount of $18,080 against 609 3rd Avenue Southwest.
So moved.
Just an assessment resolution to take the city's position. We've already carried out the demolition.
All right, motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 24099 is approved 5-0. Resolution 24100, assessed demolition cost in the amount of $17,126 against 1616 Danville Road Southwest.
So moved.
Same with this one.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 24100 is approved 5-0. Resolution 24101, award bid number 24015 to Bagabee Elevator Incorporated for lobby and jail elevator upgrades, being the lowest responsible bidder.
Good evening, Jeremy Sherrill with procurement for the city. We had our bid opening on May the 9th. We invited 17 vendors in our database to participate with only Bagabee Elevator responding, and we are recommending approval. In addition to that, we had $170,000 previously approved for this project, and this is asking for an additional $6,840 to meet the bid amount.
So moved. Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
I guess, Jeremy, that, we keep going around with the same where we send out, I think you said 17 bid requests, and we got one. And, we keep going around and around with this, and I don't know why we only have one bidder in so many different categories. So effectively, not only is this person the lowest bid, it's the highest bid. I don't know, is there a reason why we can't get more people to bid?
Well, I know this has been an issue. I've heard you mention it a couple times, and so when we solicit a particular bid, it's an invitation. We want to work with as many people. I think it benefits the city. We never want to have one. Sometimes we have zero, and we have to go back to the drawing board. Sometimes when we have one, we will rebid if schedule will permit it. Sometimes for budgetary issues, we'll have to rebid. But we have a local database that we mail directly to. In addition to that, we have a third party called Vendor Registry, where we have nearly 1,800 vendors that are electronically updated when we solicit anything within their commodity code. They'll get a notice. We post on our website. Law mandates that. We post here at City Hall. Law mandates that. In addition to that, we're engaging, we're reaching, because we don't want to have zero. We don't want to have one. And so it is an effort, an ongoing effort, but for any number of reasons, a vendor may look at an invitation and decide not to bid. We've had several. For instance, we just had our auto maintenance bid go out. We had 4 3 years ago that participated. When we went back out for bid, none of the 4 that bid 3 years earlier decided to submit bids this time. It's really kind of across the board, and I would add in my travels and in communication with other municipalities, this is an issue that is not local to Decatur. It is something that a lot of people are looking into. As we are, I think we could probably increase our social media presence and maybe try to be a little bit more visible to potential bidders, but we are addressing it.
Are specs too tight?
I think sometimes things get very narrow, and we're asking for instance, this is the elevator. It's a certain brand. There's not a ton of elevator suppliers across the state or in the region, and so it gets narrowed down, and then we need a certain brand that's going to match up what we have with the modification, so it gets even narrower. And you may be looking at 1 or 2 that may provide exactly what we're looking for, and sometimes they may choose not to submit.
Okay.
It's an issue on the private side as well,
I mean,
especially like with elevators.
I understand that, but this is an elevator, but we're getting that with basically, I won't say all, but a lot of the bids that we're sending out.
No, you're right.
Good job, Chairman.
All right, any other discussion? We do have a motion and a second. Roll call. Aye.
Aye. I'm going to abstain on this one.
Resolution 24101 is approved 4-0 with one abstention. Next is Resolution 24103, approved 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report.
Yes, this is our annual report that we do, that we are required to report to HUD. A couple of things that I did mention, we also assisted in 8 rehabs through a Community Action Agency to weatherize 8 homes. We also, hopefully, and I know some of y'all have gotten quite a few calls, hopefully within the next 2-3 months, you'll see dirt moving on the Sunshine Park project.
So moved. Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Mike.
Okay, the block grant, that's good for the city. It's other people's money, $438,000. Objectives 3, create affordable housing initiatives, funds for the first-time housing buyers. 2, provide funds for youth programs. And 3, address a variety of community needs, whatever that means. Page 31 states that the 5-year goals for the first-time home buyers was 150 units. This year, the goal was 30, and we produced 5. Okay, that doesn't sound like the kind of success we want to have for a program of that nature. Benchmarks, well, the second goal after the housing says affordable housing infill with targeted neighborhoods supporting neighborhood pride and stimulate private investment. The benchmark for this one is linear miles of recreation and walking spaces and increased code enforcement. So we're going to make sure that people are keep cutting their grass, and we've added additional walking space. That's your measure of effectiveness. How much have we done of that?
Alan, we haven't been able to do any additional walking.
I would say, Mayor, that we have an $18 million grant that's going to add 8 miles to the city's bike trail and enhance those bike trails. What you're referring to is 150. That 150 is over a 5-year period. As I said, we are down that. We did do but 5, but you will see in the second plan that we have, we're going to increase that to try to increase, because the housing market being what it is in the city of Decatur, you know, it is very difficult to get low to moderate income individuals into homes. We are doing everything that we can to increase that. We have done those 14 homes in the Seville, and I'm very excited and proud about that.
You should be, but before we received the $18 million grant on reconnecting cities, we were using TAP grants to do walking trails, multi-use trails.
Yes, sir.
Since the last one was done, the TAP grant's been tied up on sidewalks that'll be used for the 6th Avenue corridor improvement. We can't apply for a TAP grant until we use what we've already received.
Yes, sir.
So once the sidewalks are down, you'll be back in business again on applying for additional TAP grants.
Yes, sir. We also have, as I mentioned, and what he was speaking of, is the trail of cars. We have 2 others that's in the works. One, as I've already mentioned, you'll see dirt moving on Sunshine Park.
Right.
We also have a linear park on Davis Street that we're working on. And not to get into real personal, but the architect who's working on that, some of his family members are struggling with some health issues that's prevented him to do what he hopefully that we would have gotten done. But he's still working on that. And so, again, I think we have met quite a few of our benchmarks.
Has anybody read this thing?
You have.
I did, yeah.
Good job.
You're welcome. So before we vote on this, I'd ask you to take a look at
I take Alan's, he's done a good job managing this, and I appreciate his
No,
comments.
I've actually read it and we've gone through it. I mean, basically it's the same thing. It's every year.
Oh,
We've
it's the
done it
same
for-
thing. It's
I mean,
cut and
for-
paste
for
from years and
decades.
years, 5-year plan, cut and paste, and there we go.
Yeah.
Benchmark of linear miles of recreation and walking spaces for a HUD program sounds a little absurd to me. Okay,
Oh, that's for you.
that's for me?
That's to you. Now, yeah, that's your opinion.
Okay. Under public service, the goal was education, job training, and economic opportunities improved for 10% of the population. City achieved support to one organization that provided either housing, financial counseling, or support for welfare initiatives. So which was it for those 5?
Just address the council. Address the council with questions, please.
He's talking to me.
I know, but you asked him.
Well, actually, I'll address you, Mayor, because this is your plan for one of your employees. So what is it?
What's the question?
Okay, I'll repeat it again. My time should not accrue as a result of this. Under public service, as part of the plan that you're all going to vote on, the goal was education, job training, and economic opportunities to improve 10% of the population. The city achieved, per the MOE, support to one organization. I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. To one organization that provided either housing, financial counseling, or support to welfare for work initiatives. So there's 3 things there, but we don't know which one of those things it applies to.
No, sir, I don't.
Okay.
All right, we did just hit the 3 minutes. I appreciate your comments. We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Resolution 24-103 is approved 5-0. Next is Resolution 24-104, accept recycling partnership grant for the purchase of recycling carts.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Freaky, can you take a seat so Ms. Wanda can address
Can I
this?
finish my thought?
No, sir. You've hit your 3 minutes and you've talked a lot, so Wanda.
Actually, I haven't talked. A lot of talk came from
Thank
up
you.
here and from
Please
Mr.
do. Thank you.
Your name, sir?
Can you please take a seat? Please.
Can I please
No,
finish?
sir. You have signed up for public comments and 2 other items. So I'm letting you have plenty of time to speak. And you can speak on it next, but your time is up on this item. Please take a seat. Thank you.
Good job.
Wanda Tyler, Landfill and Recycling. This is a public-private partnership grant that we're working with the Recycling Partnership to assist us in upgrading our 64-gallon carts to 96-gallon carts. And we're asking for your approval to accept these funds.
All right, do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 24-104 is approved 5-0. Resolution 24-105, accept recycling partnership grant for facility upgrades.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike.
We're requesting, well, actually, they offered us more funding to help us with purchasing additional equipment with our expansion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 24-105 is approved 5-0. Resolution 24-106, authorize the mayor to accept the EECBG to replace HPS fixtures with LED fixtures.
So moved. Oh, sorry, Alan.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Alan.
Now, this is a formula grant from the Department of Energy to replace HPCs with
High-pressure
LEDs,
sodium.
high-pressure sodium.
With LED. Any, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 24-106 is approved 5-0. Resolution 24-107, approve authorization of the Baker Foundation at its expense to enter into a contract with Scott Scholl and Architect with Scholl Markland Architecture to prepare bid-ready plans for restoration of the chapel located in the Decatur Historic Cemetery.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion or questions?
Thank you for the time that you put into this and everybody else that helped you.
Thank you.
All right, any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 24107 is approved 5-0. Resolution 24108, approve MUB expenditure for construction of the new wastewater treatment plant, influent pump station, headworks, and Moulton Street collector for $119,905,329.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike.
Good evening. Again, I wanted to just touch base on a couple of things that I wanted to re-emphasize from our work session. This is 7,700 feet of 60-inch ductile pipe that will be installed as part of the Moulton Street collector project, the replacement of the influent pump station and the headworks at the wastewater treatment plant to create that free discharge condition, allowing the system to have the excess capacity. The other thing is that this project is fully funded in our 5-year business plan. The cash reserves that we're going to use in addition to the bond funds will not create any rate impacts.
What's the timeline on the completion of this project? One more time, I'm sorry, Nathan.
On the pipeline project, 2 years, and the plant project, 3 years.
Thank you.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll just simply say that I did not support the bond issues that were associated with this, so I won't be able to support it tonight.
All right, any other discussion? I do want to say one thing. When we passed you went to the bond market in 2021, I think pretty early on in 2021 for this project. That was shortly after we had finished a campaign and been elected. And when I was talking to every citizen, every door I went to in District 5, there were 2 issues that were the most talked about. A lot of issues were talked about, but the 2 things that I heard the most, ironically, one is about as far from District 5 as you can get, was about the corridor coming across the bridge and improving the look of the city on 6th Avenue. The other one was SSOs. It had been in the news a lot. We had a suit from ADEM. We were under, I guess, a consent order with ADEM to improve that. And I appreciate the work that's been done. It's expensive and hard work. Honestly, probably should have been done a long time ago. But to have over 2 years with 0 SSOs when it was a constant issue in the news is just really great work by your team and the group that's doing the work. So it's a really important project. It's a good thing, the progress we've made, and this is just another step in a long project. So thank you for that.
Let me just add too, I appreciate what's been done. I appreciate the work that you guys have done, truly do. But at the time, we recall I said that I thought that some of the costs should have been passed on to industry, who's a large user of our water. And so that was basically that. But I appreciate the work that you guys have done. I know that the rain hadn't been what it was, so that's why we've seen some of the relief that we've gotten, but also you've made steps towards improving that, so I appreciate that.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye. No.
Aye. Aye. Resolution 24108 is approved 4-1. Next is Resolution 24091, approval of lease agreement with Elizabeth W. and Bingham Edwards as part of proposed Greenpoint Ag project.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Herman.
I've shared, of course, several times. So if somebody else wants to speak, that's fine. But no, basically it brings Green Ag downtown, their headquarters, provides additional parking and upgrades downtown Decatur. It's a 30-year lease, and then the next one's 30-year sublease.
All right, Mr. Faruqi had signed in on this item.
Fiduciary and responsibilities, we already talked about it. So what's the good deal here? $3.8 million over 30 years.
I'll discuss that when we vote. But it's a good question. I'll answer your question when we vote.
Okay. Still on the 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. The earlier discussion where I was kind of blocked out of that, on page 25 of that plan, it says, what adjustments or improvements to the strategies and activities might meet this year's needs more effectively? And the quote in the plan is, this year's efforts met or surpassed the established benchmarks. 5 out of 30 was the goal, or achieved out of the goal. So I don't think it's accurate that we met or surpassed anything on your benchmarks. Did you establish those benchmarks, Mayor?
No, sir.
Who did?
I would think that your team did, Alan.
We vote on that, actually. So.
On page 22, under citizens' comments, the plan was made available May 9th through the 24th of 23 at City Hall, Public Library, Decatur Housing Authority, and the Turner Siddle Center, and Zone 1 Community Committee at their June meeting. No public comments were received. So maybe we have an issue with where that report is going, so we can get some public comments into how this thing could be more effective for the citizens of ours.
I believe there's actually a public meeting held as well. Invited people, just like a council meeting, give notice to everyone in every way in this room.
And no public comments.
That's right. No one came.
Okay, so the effectiveness, our measure of effectiveness for how well we communicate our plan to the citizens who are going to use it probably needs some work.
Across the nation, that's one of the most challenging things that municipalities have to do today is to communicate with their residents. Papers, fewer are being distributed to residents. Fewer residents are connected with watching local network or local TV news. Some watch Facebook, social media, and get news, but it is one of the most challenging things to communicate with residents across the nation.
Could our public information officer, whoever that is and whatever they do, be an asset to help you do that?
Sure, and they are, but still.
How are they doing it?
Right now, most of it goes out through social media and through media releases, but it doesn't mean that people are able to get the information because fewer are staying in touch.
Page 7 of the plan identifies impediments to the fair housing plan. The number one listed impediment is race. So what are we doing about that?
Alan, can you speak to that?
It's your plan. You wrote it.
I didn't.
Your team wrote it.
Just hold on that one. Well, I think you have valid points on communication, and that is something we need to work on.
Other than race, it is city schools, real estate practices, and insurance and governance and everything else. So there's a laundry list of things that we could be doing better on, but according to our plan, it says, with no public comment, that we met or surpassed the established benchmarks. I argue that is not accurate, and it's probably not something you want to send up to the federal government as part of a HUD report.
Thank you. All right, we do have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion?
I'll start out. You said that you had something to say.
Either way.
I mean, you can go ahead if you want to.
I think Mr. Jackson and I have had this probably same conversation on several items over the last 4 years. But, you know, when you look at things like this, I understand people look at it and it's an incentive to, in this case, keep an existing company here. The benefits are if we do this, and this parking lot, this specific item is about the lease specifically with Bingham, that is the parking lot across the street. It's going to bring significant investment to a corridor around Lee Street into Bank Street that frankly needs it. It does not look, it's not a good look right now. It's buildings that are empty, that need a facelift on both sides, including the old Renaissance building, which will be bulldozed, hopefully. It's keeping a really good company here and not letting them go to a, you know, the funny thing is if we were to just say, no, we're not going to do this, and they go to Madison County, we'd get crushed for that. I mean, there'd be people lined up. How could you do that? Huntsville beats us at everything. We're behind the curve. Nobody ever thinks forward. I get that, right? But we're going to get beat up on this side too. That's the way it goes. But it's a significant investment in that corridor. It's keeping, it's a 30-year commitment of keeping a about 100, or will be 100 employees in our downtown, which helps our downtown businesses and restaurants. They bring in people from across the country to their headquarters. It's overall a good investment. As far as the lease itself, I know it sounds expensive, and it is. It's a commitment from the city. But when you look at ground leases, typically what you want is, if you are the owner of the property that's being ground leased, about a 10x. So if you have $1 million piece of property, for example, you want to make about $100,000 a year on your lease, typically. This is not really far off from that. So, it's not a bad deal. It's a good deal for the city. We're appreciative of Greenpoint for coming to the city and seeing what we could do for them to remain here. So I will support it. I think these are good, forward-thinking things to do. But I do recognize there's legitimate good concerns on the other side of the debate. I just happen to have a different view. So.
In October, we voted on Resolution 23-275, and that was to take us out of the old Social Security building at $5,000 per month, because the mayor said that we were going to sublease that and that we were going to be rid of that. I mean, it's good to know that we're still paying that. And we were trying to get out of that to save money, and now we're going into a deal where we're paying $7,000 per month. We're going to get $1,500 back, net of $5,500. We're going to get 15 parking spaces until 6 o'clock, and then we get an additional, 100 parking spaces. The thing is that after 6 o'clock, we've got Morgan County Courthouse, we've got City Hall, we've got the college. That doesn't really benefit us. We are, again, investing in the same thing that we were supposed to be getting out of. And I do understand that it said that we're going to recoup. They're exactly, and again, they said they're going to move to Madison. I don't know that it's as successful as this company is, that they would make the same investment that we're making now. I just don't know that you would do the same thing. So it's hard for me to see that with you being 1 mile away from where we are now, where we sit right now, that we're going to recoup any more than, especially downtown, than we are. Yeah, if you move, yes. But I don't necessarily know that that's truly your end game. So I'm not going to support this tonight. We did also, it's interesting to know too that we had said that we were getting out of the Social Security building to save money. But we got another building right down the street that's owned by Barney Lovelace and his group that we've made no attempt to get out of. So I will not support this tonight. It's not a good investment for our city.
All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call. Aye.
Aye. No.
Aye. Aye. Resolution 24091 is approved 4-1. Resolution 24092 approves sublease with Greenpoint Ag for parking lot. Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second. Second by Mr. Pike. Mr. Faruqi.
Now, you and I talked about this last time.
Yeah.
And I think you used the same verbiage, that you would be basically held a laughingstock, or the city would be held a laughingstock if we allowed this.
I'll even say we should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we allowed this company to leave.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're actually doing hostage taking of a company.
I would say the same thing if they were looking to move here. We should do it either way, to recruit them or retain. Yes.
Okay, but we're really not recruiting anybody.
No, we're retaining. Okay. Both important.
Okay, so who else are we going to retain next?
Anybody that has a good business that provides jobs to our city and has a good deal. I hope that we're a city that's known that we're open for business to do that, because if we're not, we're going to be competing with a bunch of other cities that are, and they have been, and we haven't.
And so the value added, the analysis that went through as a fiduciary to say this is a good deal for the city, says we're going to have more business going downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's logical.
You mentioned restaurants and you mentioned some of the small shops.
Yeah.
Okay. Within walking distance, because they're going to park there, What access do you think, as members of the Greenpoint, will you access and use routinely from your new location?
Mr. Faruqi, can you address us?
And you
But
can
my answer would be all of the restaurants that are downtown. And here's the other thing, we get complaints all the time. We need more different, unique restaurants, burger joint, we got too many burger joints or Mexican restaurants or whatever. The way you do that, a good way, one way, is bring people. Right? You got to bring people that can pay for those meals. And so this is an attempt to do that, just like the hotel is, just like the dorms are, all those things that you can do to bring people some density to a certain area should produce more options for our current residents and visitors.
And a lot of energy downtown.
But the thing is their
And a lot of energy
their headquarters
downtown.
is exactly 1 mile from where we sit right now.
Yeah.
So again, how much more impact are we going to have on downtown because they move 1 mile farther west?
My thought is more when you have 100 people that are in walking distance, but it's a legitimate question. We don't know.
Are there any surveys that you could have done as part of this investigative process to ask the company, would you be more likely to use, and what type of restaurants would you like to have?
We can do that.
maybe we
Like
can do
I
that
said, we
before we
think this
vote.
is a good investment. I feel comfortable that we've done enough of that thought process.
When is the
to do
new garage facility down the street going to be open?
it's basically,
It's done. They're waiting for the training on the technology, and that's going to be the next.
next couple of weeks.
Okay, so that may or may not have an impact on the amount of parking going in and out of that area.
Likely, yes.
Okay, so maybe we could take a squat hold, but I know we won't.
Right. All right, any other discussion? Roll call? Aye.
Aye. No.
Aye. Aye. Resolution 24092 is approved 4-1. Next is ordinances. Ordinance 244586 approves street name change from Acra Lane Southeast to Sand Hill Lane Southeast.
Tommy Williams with the Planning Department, and the applicant is requesting a street name change from Acra Lane Southeast to Sand Hill Lane Southeast. He's the only person fronting the street, and the Planning Commission passed this April 23rd.
So moved. Second. Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Ordinance 244586 approved 5-0. Next council work session will be held on June 10th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Next regular council meeting will be held on June 17th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Mayor, you had something?
I do. I want to recognize the man that sits in the back of the room in his normal seat, Chief Tracy Thornton, our fire chief, who recently completed training at the FEMA Senior Fire Officer Executive Program. This is done by the U.S. Fire Administration, National Fire Academy, and it was announced that on May 17, 2024, that Chief Thornton had completed that program. Chief, congratulations on doing that. Deputy Chief Nathan Springer is still working on his completion, and it's my understanding that you were the first in the city of Decatur to do so, and maybe 70 in the state of Alabama have completed the program. But we're proud of it.
Me and Chief Springer started at the same time. They had it divided into just different classes. But he's actually there now. So it's been a great experience. We learned a lot.
Thanks, Mayor. All right, well, we will move into our public comment part of the meeting. As a reminder, we'll do 3 minutes. Please address the council as you speak, and no profanity. Let everybody leave for a second. Yvette, you were first on the list.
Good evening, Councilman, and to the mayor who's on his way out the door. I hope he can hear me. I will make sure he gets a copy of this because it was directly related to some remarks that he made. And I pondered whether or not to share this, and it really stuck with me. So when our police chief listed his information and he gave his outline, and that's truly what it was, an outline of what he would like to do to move forward, there was a comment made by the mayor in the paper. He said he would like the citizens of the city to be patient and with what was happening. And he said that it was better for us not to move quickly, but to move at the speed of right. And as I pondered that, I started researching, what does the speed of right really mean? You know, it's easy for us to use slogans or the buzzword or something that someone else has said, but what does that really mean? So I did some research, and there was an article called The Speed of Right by Mike Vardy. And it says, slow and steady wins the race, the tortoise and the hare. In our quest to get things done, we can find ourselves moving too fast. When that happens, we run the risk of missing key components of task completions, which can result in lower quality results. The need for speed is alluring because the rewards associated with speed are compelling. We get to finish something we started, and that gives us a sense of achievement and accomplishment, but that feeling is not only false, it's fleeting. The feeling is false in that while the job might be done, you're cheating yourself on how well it could have been done if you had applied more critical thoughts and attention to the job instead of blazing right through as quickly as possible. As I pondered this thought, I began to think about, well, we understand what speed is. I'm an engineer. I know what speed is. Many of you, we know what the speed of light is. The speed of right is just something that someone put together. Now it's a new buzzword. But I wanted to focus more on what is right rather than what is speed. So right would be treating others like you want to be treated. Right would be following procedures and policies already in place instead of making up your own rules as you go just to fit the poor actions and decisions you already made. Right would be treating all citizens of the city with fairness, decency, and dignity. Right would be implementing voice and dignity by sitting and listening to others' opinions. Can I get it? Thank you. By sitting and listening to others' opinions and comments and concerns, whether you agree with them or not, Mr. Mayor. Right would be include taking action immediately because it's the right thing to do, and not waiting until you are forced to act because of public opinion and poor judgment of your departments and leadership. Right would be leading and listening to all the citizens in the city, whether they look like you, think like you, voted for you, or fund your campaign and play your favorite games. For Decatur, Alabama, Mr. Mayor in your absence, Mr. Pinion in your absence, and to the councilman, right relative to leadership means leadership is proactive and not reactive. Right means leadership that understands the importance of being diversified for the people they represent, regardless of those people, if they look like you or live at the same socioeconomic status as yourselves. Right means leadership that recognizes they represent the city with their actions and behavior, whether seated at the desk, attending a public event, or on social media. Right means, as a leader, that you understand the importance of being diversified for the people you represent. Right means leadership that fairly depicts all constituents of the district and you have a true concern for the community and the city. Right means leadership that has the ability to adapt as well as implement changes during favorable and unfavorable conditions, through self-evaluation, openness to suggestions of those team members or the people in the city and their peers and the people that they serve. Right means leadership that values transparency and honesty while demonstrating courage to do the right thing, and even if it is not popular. So I went about thinking, what really is right when it comes to speed? What's right when it came to our situations in the city? And then I found something that I know is absolutely right, the Word of God. You won't argue with me on that. So let's take a look. 1 Peter 3:17 says, "For it is better that you suffer unjustly for doing what is right, if doing what is right, if that should be God's will, than to suffer justly for doing wrong." James 4:17, which I know is right, says, "Any person who knows what is right or knows what is right to do but does not do it is sin to him." Anybody else? Then I'll finish.
Marcus.
Thank you. James 4:17 says, "So any person who knows what is right to do but does not do it, to him it is sin." So we can pretend that we don't know what's right, but if you are who you say you are, the Lord, the Holy Spirit has already spoken to you, and you know what the right thing is. And one thing about it, we can sit at the desk, we can be leaders in the office, we can be leaders anywhere. But one thing about our actions as leaders is when we stand before the judgment seat of God, no one is going to be there with you. None of your cheerleaders, none of the people who voted for us, none of the people who hired us or put us in those positions. We're going to be standing before a just God, and we have to tell him what he already knows was in our heart, whether it was right or not. The last thing is this: to do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifices for wrongs repeatedly committed. We can try to offer our sacrifices. We can try to offer and say we're sorry. But when it comes to leadership, we have to do the next right thing. Thank you, Jacob, for that. I want to leave this thought with you. Right is understanding that a leadership position means more than power and a title. Right is understanding that true leadership means servant leadership. I'll leave you with this last thought by Robert Greenleaf, and it says, servant leadership is not about power. It is about people. So, Mayor, in case you don't hear this online, I'm going to mail you a copy. And I may even put it in the newspaper. But as leaders, we're quick to take a title. We're quick to say we're CEOs. We're quick to say we're elected officials. We're quick to flaunt our titles. But are we really the servant leaders that we have been called to be? Your office is not by accident. You will be held accountable for every thought, every action, every vote, every word. Because the Bible says, by our words we shall be justified, and by our words we'll be condemned. Have a good evening.
Will Landers, Mike.
All right. This is my first time here since after the gag hearing. So I just want to let you know how I felt sitting in that courtroom. I knew the police department, I knew they was corrupt, but nobody could have ever told me they was that corrupt. That whole command staff or supervisors, it was past what I used to say out of control. It was more like corruption. I guess that would be the word I would use. And Still, 2 or 3 weeks after that, nothing has been done to those leaders or supervisors. Renshaw, and you can say it was an emergency all day long, but the way he's done our protesters, the way he's done with, even at that hearing, something should have been done. I stood up here for months saying the enemy is in this house. I stood up there and said that we don't feel safe in this house. And you all ignored me. You didn't listen. You didn't listen to your citizens when we told you time after time that we feel harmed, that we feel like this police department is at us. Y'all didn't care. But then, it's like, I don't even know if we can trust you all anymore. I was having a debate with what we call the deacon board. And my whole thing was about trust. Because I know here, I felt afraid. I knew that those officers were at our protesters. I know those officers was doing any and everything, and nobody has done nothing yet. No officer has gotten fired yet off of what they've done to the protesters. I'm not talking about what they've done to Steve, but what happened afterwards. And then you all didn't trust us or didn't believe us. And even if you bring in a third party or whatever you want to do, and I'm in agreement with that, only if it's the right thing, only if it's the right type of people. But you can do that. But it starts with you all making a change today. You don't have to wait on a third party when you can fire him today. Because I don't feel safe with Mr. Greenwald or whatever his name is wandering the streets.
Thanks, Mike. Elena.
This is also my first time being back since the gag order hearing. Y'all get irritated every time somebody questions your jobs. We're asking questions. We don't know. We're the same age. I could be in your position, but I wouldn't know anything, right? Until I get in that position, until I learn something. But every time somebody comes up here and they're asking you questions or they're, maybe getting on to you a little bit because they don't understand, instead of, taking a step back and being a leader and a teacher, you get defensive and irritated. And there's no point in that. You want more people to come to this city? This city? You mean the same city that's entire police leadership is under a gag order in a recent murder case? That same city? Because they couldn't keep up with a thumb drive? I got a 3-year-old daughter. Maybe this wasn't the best idea, but I got her a tablet for her birthday, one of those little kids ones. Yeah, it's going to be her responsibility to keep up with it. Because if you don't, well, you don't get to play with it. You may get in trouble because it was kind of expensive. What is happening in there? Nobody got in trouble. A captain received the body cam footage. I don't care where Todd was. I don't care if he was in the Bahamas. That captain, if he had any respect, a morsel of respect for his chief, he would have waited till his chief got back to tell him what to do with that. Rather than saying he was under the impression he could do whatever he wanted with it. Yeah, because I'm sure Alabama Law Enforcement Agency said that. I'm sure, because we can all believe that, right? We come up here with hypotheticals to you guys, talking about kids, talking about families, talking about yourselves, and you use that against us. You call us violent. You say we're immature. You say anything you can to feel like a victim. You feel threatened by what we deal with every single day. So how do you think we feel? Todd's plan. Do you want praise, Ladner? I mean, you're reacting to what happened to your police department being on trial. You didn't react when they tackled protesters on sidewalks. You didn't react when they arrested me walking away from them. Or when Lieutenant Joe Renshaw, who was on staff the night I was arrested, decided to take it to Facebook under a name named Phil McGroin and say, oh, I sense a bond revocation coming, and guess whose comment is on it? If y'all don't think I'm not coming, if y'all don't think the rest of this community's not coming, if y'all don't think the DOJ's coming, keep toying. Keep toying. Because this right here, everything that I've got right here, this whole book that I spent all my money printing out, it's already been given to Scott Anderson. And he's already told me, this is charges. But he's out on the street due to an emergency. He's out on the street due to an emergency. But we have so many police officers, right? Morale's up. The police department's doing the best it ever did under Todd Pinion. Because we're supposed to believe that. You're right. Huntsville beats us at everything. So let's send body cam footage. Let's go get an organization from Huntsville to look at our police department, because that's going to show our community that you can trust us. What is there to trust? What have you shown us is to trust? We told you for months. We looked this up on our own. None of you helped us. Talking about a citizen advisory board. Talking about bringing in a third party. We brought that to you months ago. Because this was happening to us on a daily basis.
Yes, it will.
Every day. You commenting on his post lets all of us know you know who they are. And we know this ain't the only one. What exactly are you wanting this organization to tell you? What exactly?
I think I laid that out Friday, but
I listened to what you laid out Friday, and that didn't lay out much for me. Going over policies
it
and
wasn't
procedures.
for you. It's for everybody.
So that doesn't include me, because I'm not everybody. All right, hold on, Jacob. Don't take out my
But I will
time
say
here.
this: I don't want praise,
Okay, then why now? That's a good question.
and I answered that too. I understand the criticism that it has been a long time. The answer of why now is it became clear it was not going to come from anyone else.
Is it still clear to you it's still not going to come from anyone else?
Yes, that's why I did it.
So why not do something about it? Why not do the one thing you know you can?
We are.
You're not. You're not doing the one thing
No.
we've all asked you to do, and you all know is the only solution.
Cannot do that.
You all can. You all know this is the only solution.
What's the solution?
To fire Todd Pinion. And because this is why I brought this up. What exactly do you want this organization to tell us? Because you're talking about culture, and forgive me if I don't word this in the right way. What culture? Well, I don't want to know how many white police officers and how many black police officers are in Decatur PD. That's not hard to figure out. I want to know how much culture training these police officers have.
That absolutely would be part of it.
That I hope that is, because that's something that these officers do not have.
I think anything that they look into, which is as comprehensive as you can get, I hope everyone supports.
I hope it's something we can support, because if
I
something
agree.
comes,
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Because here's the thing, if something, because I thought that this was detrimental, but not obviously detrimental enough for y'all, what more has to come out of that police department before you say, hey, maybe this guy's ain't got control, ain't got respect? I'm not saying to fear your boss. I wouldn't want to fear my boss. That's a terrible work environment. But I would want to have respect for my boss. Respect enough that I wouldn't want to get my boss in trouble by what I'm doing. And it's clear to us that Renshaw, Jack Brown, Lieutenant Lindley, Marquette, all of them that have been out here have no respect for Todd Pinion at all. Why does he want to stay here? That's a better question. Why does Todd want to be here so bad? Because he's running this department and this city into the ground.
That's right.
Destiny. I got it.
The department is in shambles because I don't know if this is going to be a shocker to you guys. It wasn't really a shocker to us 8 months ago. The department is in shambles because the leader is a fall guy. He's the backup. So are some of you up here. Y'all are fall guys. And I hope you realize it before it's too late. Maybe the reason you don't want to get rid of Chief Pinion is because you don't want the stress of finding another police chief. But I'm telling you right now, no amount of paperwork, no amount of statistics, no amount of reviews or community involvement, no matter how many bland, vague plans we get released, nothing is going to fix this until we get a new leader.
That's right.
When a federal Department of Justice comes down and asks you, each of you individually, because I don't feel like that they will miss that part of their investigation no matter how many people toy with them. I believe they will want to know why the leaders of the city, not just the police department, but the city, did not step in beforehand. And when they ask you about this vague plan that will probably not be pushed, and when they ask you about the chief's actions since September 29th, when it comes to his officers and when it comes to their need for discipline, I hope you have some real facts. And not just, he's a good guy, he's cool, I don't have any issues with him. Because statistics don't lie, and statistics show that Decatur needs some serious help. You guys need some serious help. There is no rhyme or reason that a police officer, let's just go through some of these again, okay? First of all, doxing a citizen, that's a felony, in case y'all forgot. He did that twice. That's 2 counts, felony charges. He still works here. He's still out on the street, towed some young man's car the other day, but that's okay. Our chief is great. This cute little message, hey, by the way, me telling him, hey, we're gonna find you eventually one day. You really think DPD or the sheriffs will help you? Let me stop before I get kicked off the podium. That's the kind of language. That's what I get sent. That's what several other citizens were sent. I'm not the only one. Raven's not the only one. He did this day in and day out on Facebook continuously while on shift. Saying he's got a hard IP address to track and everything else. He's sitting in that department on his cell phone.
So I was sent a lot of that information the day after the Friday gag order hearing, and I made the call I made on Monday. So I didn't know, of course, I didn't know who it was saying that stuff. I don't get on Facebook and look at every post that's made to see what's been said or not. But once I did know who it was, I did something. I know I'm not going to get credit. I don't want praise, but you can't sit here and say that I knew about all those things and did nothing, because I didn't.
So what about all the times we sent y'all pictures of how many times we sent you all pictures and videos of protesters being abused? How about how many times we sent y'all pictures and videos of Phil McGroin doing this way back when?
I had no clue who that was.
Neither did we.
Right.
Y'all are supposed to protect us, and you're not doing it. There's nothing that you can sit here and tell us to say that Todd Pinion is a good police chief.
Let me just ask this. You're saying you didn't know who that was at the time it was going on, and obviously I did not either.
Somebody did.
Look, y'all want me to do everything he tells me to do. What do you want me to do to what appears to be a private citizen on Facebook making those comments?
Let me ask you the same question. Who do you call?
That's what I'm saying did change.
Who do you call when the police are the criminal? Let me ask you the same vague question.
No, it's a specific question. What do you expect me to do to a citizen on Facebook that is a private citizen that is making inappropriate comments? What do you want me to do about that? Because that's what you're asking me to do.
The same thing we would ask you to do to your colleague. Maybe sit him down, have a conversation with him.
I have many times, and he would tell you this.
No, he won't.
Hold on. Yeah, so you said no, I won't. There's 2 people sitting here that have called me and said, hey, that you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be.
And a judge,
you shouldn't be acting that way, or you shouldn't. Well, you let me speak. You're gonna keep talking. I mean, it's a hush.
I don't know whose minutes is it.
I think almost everybody up here besides Mr. Jackson has called me and said, hey, that's not right. That's inappropriate. That doesn't look good. It's not a good look for the city. But you know what?
You don't care.
And anybody up here can say that's my reply is, and I respect their opinions. No, absolutely not. Of course I care. I take any guidance and any leadership. Do I listen to it at all times? No, absolutely. I have my own opinion. Just like you have your own opinion. So I think everybody up here has their own opinion regarding the situation at hand or whatnot. But I mean, obviously you've seen my. Hold on, let me finish there. So obviously you've seen my comments there. And it appears that you've gotten a little butthurt about it. And it's okay that you've been a little butthurt about it, probably because you've been arrested and you pled guilty to a charge.
Hunter, come on, that's enough. You pled guilty. Hunter, we did just hit. Who? I'm sorry.
There was one other person over here that said it earlier that they would give me 3 minutes, and I didn't really get to finish.
I know, that's what I'm trying to. Who said it earlier? Okay, I got you.
So,
Jacob, the issue was about what he did behind keyboard is what he was doing behind the back.
That's fine, I understand. But that's not what I was at. Guys, come on.
well, here's the thing. Let me ask you the same question, Jacob. What do you expect me to do? File harassment charges, right? I just got told right here that DPD's not going to help me. At the time, I lived in Decatur. So therefore, that's the only people I can go to is DPD. Right? So how am I going to get help if it's literally DPD behind it? Jacob,
And like I
Billy,
said-
Kyle, Carlton, Hunter. Come on.
Do you want me to show you?
Hold on. Let me finish.
Well, hold on.
Let me
You're
finish.
asking. You just said
I
you
just
don't know
said
who
your
to.
names.
Hold on. No, you said
You
you
can
do
calm
not
down
know who
for
to
5
go to for
minutes.
help.
All I
So
said
you're
was your
asking
names.
us to figure out who to go to for help. You can go across the street, right here to the courthouse, go to the 4th floor, talk to the circuit clerk's office, because that's who would handle it.
No.
So I'm
Selby-
telling you how to get to help.
Let me read
How
you
to
an
get help.
email from Selby De Leon, your internal affairs officer here in Decatur
Okay,
Police.
so you
He said,
said
can I speak?
No, I'm going to finish
my
my, no, absolutely not. No. You said that you want to know how you would handle a situation or who you would report to in the event you wanted to file charges. You need to go across the street and you can file charges over there. You said that in a message he sent you that DPD would not help you. Hey, that's okay. He doesn't work for Morgan County Sheriff's Office. So feel free to go across the street to the 4th floor of the circuit clerk's office and try to swear a warrant for his
All right,
arrest.
thank you, Mr. Pepper. Ms. Daly.
So there you go. So you have the information. So take it and use it.
Now, again, this is what happens when we just stand up here to speak. This is what happens. That silence speaks volumes, doesn't it? This is what happens. This is what happens when we come up here to speak. We are telling you over and over again, we've told you for months over and over again, this will not get any better. The healing will not start until we have some kind of leadership.
Read your email.
The some kind of leadership is not some third-party organization coming in and checking boxes for you guys. The leadership starts with the man who represents that department. And the man who represents that department ain't been here. He ain't been out making press conferences. He stood behind you when you made yours, out in the corner. But he didn't make one. He didn't say that he agrees. He's not showing us that maybe he agrees his department or that he needs a little help. You know, might be a little more lenient on Todd Pinion if he was out here actually apologizing and saying, I'm so sorry that my officers, because he did when they put Cotrella in handcuffs. He didn't know what to do after he told them to stop and they refused.
That's court-martial.
What do you expect from us? Y'all are so tired of hearing what we expect from you. What do you expect from us? We are doing our legal, our moral duties of standing in front of you, letting you know what's going on with your department. We have been for months, and you're doing nothing but berating and attacking us as we tell you to just do your jobs. Like I just said earlier, the statistics show. I don't know what y'all are looking at, but the real ones show, and the DOJ sees, Decatur needs help.
Thank you. Anissa.
I just wanted to say I think the third-party independent review is necessary because above all, everything else, we will have a legitimate analysis of data regarding the Decatur Police Department. So with that said, I do want to ask, how do you all, well, McMasters, Ladner, Billy, and Kyle, how do you all plan to ensure that the police department won't try to undermine the third-party independent review process?
And I know they haven't probably talked, anybody that has talked to this group can answer, but there's some ways they can do that. That is something we've talked about. I think they would talk about it with any department, not just ours, but ways they can access information without it being stonewalled and things like that are things we'll talk through the kind of scope of work and contract negotiation. But that is a topic I already have discussed with them.
Okay.
I've discussed it with them as well, Anissa, and the thing that I want to make sure that they have is total access.
Right.
Total access.
I agree.
And without hindrance to anything that they're searching for, because my position is I am not interested in them looking at our policies and procedures. I think that our policies and procedures are not necessarily bad policies and procedures. Could some of them be tweaked? Should some of them be updated? Possibly, yes. But what I'm more concerned with is the adherence to our policies and procedures. And so what I have asked them to do when I spoke with them, and I think I've been speaking with them since January 14th when I look back at my emails and texts. But the thing is that I have asked them to give us a comprehensive review of how people have violated this or if people have adhered to the policies. And that's what I'm really interested in. I shared this with you that I am more interested in months before the unfortunate situation with Steve and then following that, because I do think that there are probably 30 sets of eyes that are looking at that particular night. And I think that it's important that this agency come in and look at everything else, because I do think that there are enough people analyzing that and that there will be repercussions for what happened that night.
Yes.
I agree. I will support, and we'll talk about this. Obviously, we have to get a contract and discuss, but I do agree with Mr. Jackson that I do think our policies and procedures are good. I don't know that for sure. And I noticed when we brought Kalia in, which is a high, the highest level of policies procedure certification you can get, there was a lot of public feedback of distrust of that. And so it would be hard for me, I think, just to have a neutral third party look at that is not something that is out of the realm of something we should do, although I generally would agree that the policies, procedures are good, but I would support them looking at all of those items, the things he mentioned and the policy.
And I want to add too that Elena asked, how do we make sure that they're not stonewalled? How do we make sure that this is not this okay, it was Anissa. This is not their first rodeo. And I do think that this company is going to understand when they are being stonewalled. I think that if this thing goes through, that it should have the full weight of the city council behind it, so that all doors are open, so that if they start stonewalling, then they've got to deal with the full weight of the city council. And that's what my expectation is.
I'd agree with that. I mean, I had a conversation with them previously, and I think they'll be fully aware. And I definitely support it. I think they'll have the support of the council. I would expect the PD to support it as well because of that.
Okay, thank y'all. So I wanted to say what a third-party independent review can find out when looking into a corrupt police department like Decatur's. They find that the police department is neglectful, unaccountable, and unconstitutional to the city it serves. So Todd may not be able to accept his fate, but in my opinion, he won't be chief for long. So in the event of Todd Pinion's dismissal, what qualities and qualifications will the council prioritize in selecting new leadership for the police department? McMasters?
First, I think we're going to have to, since we're playing hypotheticals, if that happens, who's going to want to come here right now? Because as we've seen, almost every single thing that our police department does right now is criticized and ridiculed, whether right or wrong.
Because majority of the time they're wrong. They haven't done anything
and
right.
That's what this review is going to find out. I think.
No, this is the experience of the community. This is what we had to find out.
So what qualities are you looking for?
No, I asked you. You're the police liaison. I asked the question.
Hey, as police liaison, I found out about this third-party review Friday afternoon.
I'm glad you found out though about it.
Yeah, and I think I do think it's a good thing. But I mean, it's like when we look at any applicant, what experience do they have?
I stated, what would you prioritize?
What would I prioritize? It would depend on the slate of candidates. Honestly.
Okay, thank you.
It would depend on the slate of
candidates. Let me jump in after that. I'm sorry, after that non-answer.
Thank you.
The number one priority for me is a person who can come in here and establish discipline.
Thank you.
That's it. And I mean, and I'm sorry, our discipline is apparently was wavering on that fateful night, and we've had discipline issues since then.
That's right.
So my number one priority in that candidate is going to be a person who can come in and establish discipline day one, and people know that they're not playing around, male or female.
Yeah, I talked about this Friday, but my number one criteria is I want to understand the character of the person. But obviously experience is a huge deal, and especially if they've had experience rebuilding is critical. But, you know, I mean, there are a lot of things that we would all agree on that are check boxes of what you need in the chief. But the things that are important to me are leading teams well, character, and the ability to build something new.
Thank you.
I think you got to, I agree with these guys too, but you got to have somebody with high moral integrity.
That's right.
You know, they can continue to train, continue to better themselves on law enforcement, but you got to have somebody with the right moral integrity to lead a department, especially in this situation.
That's right. Okay. Thank y'all.
Thanks. Danny.
Say it again. How y'all guys doing? The first thing I want to ask is there a has a community or a communications person been hired, or is there someone?
Yeah, I believe the mayor has hired someone as a part-time very recently to help with communications.
And now I don't know this, but I'm just asking the question: is that in his authority to just hire someone?
Yeah, if it's not a director, it's not a council.
Gotcha. Just wanted to know. Does anyone know who this person is?
Yeah, I met him, I think, for the second time on Friday. Talked to him. Y'all were there. Yep.
So, okay, back to the third-party review. So just for the community, we know who he is. You guys know who he is. You've spoken with him. What led you guys to choose this company and this person, per se, specifically to lead this review?
Do you want me to? I mean, I think I've answered all these questions, but
you definitely answered for me.
So,
I was just saying.
Yeah, that's fine. So for me, it was having someone that was relatively local. I could ask different members of the community that I knew. Some are sitting in this room. And I could ask those folks and folks in Huntsville, and unanimously everyone said that this particular person had extremely high character, would have no agenda, would be a completely unbiased third party to give us the answers we're looking for. And when I met with their team, and it's not just one person, there's a whole team that if we move forward with this would be helping us through this process. The experience was there when you look at the whole team, and I had the character piece was just reinforced once you sit down and talk to them. So I hope you don't mind me sharing, but we had a conversation and had very similar thoughts about this person, and that helped me as well. That somebody else that I don't think we knew we were both talking to the same person, but that coming from somebody that I sit up here with every Monday night helped me think this was the right person too. So we'll see.
Are there any pitfalls in their background that you might think of that could give you a little hindrance? Or
not that I know of at this point.
Okay. And for the rest of the council, I know how Mr. Jackson stands and Mr. Ladner, and I think Mike said you were going to support the review. How about the other two?
Yeah, I hadn't had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Green yet. I tried to call him Friday. I'd like to, just introduce myself at least and have a chance to have a conversation with him. But no, I'm 100% fine with this. I do have the same reservations kind of that Mr. Jackson has about the policy and procedure. Looking into that, we are CALEA certified. If we're going to have somebody else telling us what policies and procedures to do, that comes with a price tag. Do we need to have CALEA as well? I think some would say 100% we've got to have CALEA. That's the accepted nationwide police policy and procedure exception. And we've heard many people up here say it's not a policy and procedure problem, it's an adherence problem. So do we need to spend the money on the policy and procedure looking at as far as the adherence to? You know, those are questions I want to ask.
He couldn't have said it any better, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk, excuse me, I'd like to talk to the guy. I'd like to meet him, get to know him, figure out exactly if he actually has no agenda or not. I'm assuming that coming into a role like this, he would have no agenda. You know, he would need to be neutral on both sides and be able to look at everything equally, so.
I would say in one long conversation with him, within minutes, that was very clear, that him and his team do not have an agenda, but simply to come in and investigate, I think. Others that had talked with him would say the same thing.
And so, after, with the last question probably being, with all that being said and all that, after that's done, are there going to be plans put in place for whatever the outcome of that review is, or are we going to wait until the review comes to determine what plans we make?
Very difficult question to answer because we don't know what it says. You know, the point of it is to give us actionable things that are clear and based on facts. So, all
right, thank you.
Thanks. Mike Faruqi.
Y'all ever see that movie Fury?
No.
A lot of people here are probably furious. Okay, and when I look at that, there's a quote from Isaiah 6:8. It's in the movie. Bottom line is, heard the word of the Lord, who will I send? Send me. Okay, I think all the people in this room share that. I think you, in some degree, ought to share that too. We talked about legislative responsibilities ad nauseum, okay? We don't do that here. We ought to do that here. We talked about fiduciary responsibilities today. One responsibility of fiduciary is to investigate, look into stuff. So what's the status, Mr. McMasters, of the chief's plan? I saw 6 bullet points.
That is an outline.
So, but what's the status of this plan, Mr. Liaison?
He is in the process of seeing what options or which of those bullet points he rolls out first.
He's not going to roll them out simultaneously?
I can't answer
Can
that.
you ask that as an investigator, as a fiduciary for our city, could you ask that question?
Yes.
Okay, can we have an answer next time? Because it shouldn't take long, phone call quickly.
I will do my absolute best.
I appreciate it. And then we should engage in a deliberate process also as a fiduciary. So this is not a deliberate process. This is something is a problem, let's vote on it, money in, money out. As we look to the policies and procedures, is that the only thing that this third party is going to look at?
No.
And what else do you look at?
We haven't defined the exact scope. That'll be in the contract when we actually vote on it. So it's even hard to say this third party is going to do anything because we haven't voted yet. But we'll work through the scope. My intention would be policies, procedures. We talked about culture of the department, kind of behavior. Culture is any given place and time, but you can review things that help you understand the culture. I think leadership, communication, the way internal affairs processes information with citizens is a specific example. Mr. Jackson spoke to very specific actions that have occurred that would be reviewed. So it's very comprehensive beyond policies and procedures.
Okay.
That's what I expect the scope to be, but we haven't worked all those details out.
Okay.
And if that changes, I will let everyone know as well as the time frame.
All right, and as you go through that process, and we talked 3 months ago about this little thing called DOCMO-PF, Doctrine, Plans and Procedures, Policies, Organization. Do we have the right organization, or is putting resources against something that doesn't need to be there? Training. So what is the training for this department? What do they get? What do they not get?
That will be as well.
Okay, leadership. Talk about leadership surveys, peer evaluations.
Yeah, we have those surveys in place now. Those I hope would be open to the review as well.
Okay. Well, are peer reviews something you can look at?
No.
Okay. Who else can look at it?
I think that's an internal thing with the department. I don't have any access to that.
Okay.
HR.
Yeah, that might be a policy and procedure we look at that makes a little more transparency for who we have in various positions and are they doing the right job before it becomes an issue with people getting gag orders put against them.
I'll just tell you this. As a council member, I know a lot of conversation in the last 8 months has been, you guys know everything and you're hiding it from us. One of the reasons I want to do this review is because that is not true. I have a lot of questions. Even if you look, and I know I use Mobile, and we can have a discussion about Mobile, but when Mayor Stimpson announced the next day after their incident they had in the fall, he said, I have a lot of unanswered questions, and that's why I'm hiring this firm. That's exactly one of the main reasons I think we have to do this, is because we don't have anything before us that's a document, that's third party, that's independent. There are a lot of things that have happened that are concerning to me that I want the facts on. So you hear both sides, but I agree. I mean, we need transparency too. We need to understand what the truth is.
Okay. And how long did the mayor take to get that third party taking a look at stuff?
Help me understand the question.
You said the mayor in Mobile?
Yeah, so he announced, I mean, it's all, you can Google it, but he announced, I think it was either the next day or like 2 days later. Theirs was very specific around uses of force, which is a little bit different than what we're potentially going to do. It'll include that, but theirs was not policies, procedure, all the things I just laid out. It was specifically on specific instances of use of force. So it's a little different, but theirs was done in 3 or 4 months, I believe. Again, there's a lot of controversy around that particular report, but it's worth looking at. It's worth reading.
Yeah, it sounds like they had a deliberate process in place for them to bring this to the attention and quickly act upon it.
From their mayor.
Okay. But you also have a legislative responsibility.
We do. We have certain responsibilities, and we can do things. That doesn't mean it necessarily should be our responsibility. That is not the way those items go. But like Mr. Jackson said, having the full force of the council behind something can give it weight, because we do have ways we can address some of these issues.
What does City Council in Mobile do?
After the mayor presented it to them, they approved it. I don't think it was a pretty close, contentious vote. They had a lot of back and forth about if the council was even allowed to address police policy, which it ended up they weren't. But as far as the review, I'm not sure if their council voted. I'll have to get back with you on that.
Okay. Again, legislative responsibility as an addition.
They're a little bit different structure. But I'm not sure if their mayor could just do that on his own. He may actually have done that without a council vote.
Okay. And I would offer intellectual curiosity is a good thing as an investigative tool.
I would agree with you.
For all of you, including the mayor.
I hope you see that I do have intellectual curiosity.
But by the same token, let's be clear, the mayor could have done that. The mayor could have done that. And I think that's what Jacob is trying to say effectively, but
I've said it.
Yeah, the mayor
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, the mayor could have done that. It should not fall back onto the council.
I've said it.
It should not fall onto the council. He should have taken that responsibility.
City Council ended up, they did vote to remove their.
They did, but we need to be clear about all the reasons why. It wasn't just because of that report. There were major issues, but yes, they did vote unanimously too. They did. That's right. But look, the reason I say that is this is not apples to apples. I know I use that example because they've recently gone through that. Every situation's different, right? So just be clear about why they fired their chief and where we are. So, yeah, thank you, Mike.
I would just like to talk about what side of history you shouldn't want to be on. MLK described the white martyr as someone who will say, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who believes you can set a timetable for another man's freedom. Last time I was up here, I statistically proved that the pigs disproportionately target, illegally arrest, and over-sentence black people. With sources that Hunter Pepper even privately acknowledged were accurate. Do you know what the pigs were called before they were state funded?
Can we, don't.
I'm not going to.
That's not vulgar.
I'm not going to respond to a term of you calling someone.
Okay, I'm so
pigs.
sorry.
I'm not going to respond to that.
Do you remember?
You can respond to them in a respectful way.
Is my time being paused?
Yeah, you can respond to them in a respectful way.
Are you a police officer?
I'm telling you, you can respond to them in a respectful way.
Answer the question.
Hey,
do
you can respond to them in a respectful way, and I will respond. I will not respond to your question. Respect.
Both of you quit. If we don't,
Both of you.
both of you stop.
Hold on, no.
I'm about to call a recess. And
Please call a
You're going to
recess.
have to stay here longer.
Yeah, please
This
stay
is
here.
all I want to say because you brought it up first. We've got to have respect for each other. We can disagree wholeheartedly, but we have got to have respect. That includes name calling. That includes anything about people's family, anything like that. From both sides, I need to have respect for all of you. I hope that I've shown I have respect for all of you. But if we can't have a respectful conversation, it's not helpful. It is not helpful, okay? Let's try to have a mutual respect when we do this, or we're just not going to be able to have these conversations because it's not fruitful at all.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question again. Do you remember what the police were called before they were state funded?
I do not.
Slave patrol, slave catchers, at least until they rewrote the 13th Amendment to allow slavery as a punishment for a crime. Now, with that being said, do you know how much prison slave labor produces annually?
I do not.
Okay, well, it's $2 billion a year, according to the ACLU, because if I don't provide the source, you're going to cry. And $9 billion a year in prison maintenance, because it costs that much to keep them imprisoned. Alabama made $450 million last year from leasing prison slave labor to fast food chains, and is currently being sued, according to lawandcrime.com. An activist I highly respect recently asked me what I thought John Brown would do about all this modern-day slavery fueled by white supremacy. Do you know who John Brown is? Of course you don't.
Yes.
He was a white slavery abolitionist who ran multiple raids, killing slave owners and freeing the enslaved, all with the muzzle loader. He was eventually surrounded by Confederate Klansmen in matching United States Marine Corps uniforms, which is embarrassing because I am a Marine vet. Later hanged for his freedom fighting. I told my comrade that was 165 years ago, and I couldn't fathom what John Brown would do to these white supremacist bootlickers with a rifle that doesn't require a big old stick to reload it. To summarize, Angela Davis put it best. In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist.
Maggie Porter.
This is for you. I'm gonna ask you because I guess you don't.
Hold up.
I guess you don't want to answer this question for me. So who authorized someone that's been charged with murder to get picked up with my taxpayer dollars and transported here with my taxpayers' dollars here for a gag order?
I have no idea.
So you don't know who authorized him to get protection? Nobody knows. Leah, you may know.
I have no idea.
My guess is someone on the court side, but I have no idea.
So y'all think he needs protection, but she doesn't?
I didn't make that decision.
So I vote that she needs protection also. So when the court starts and the hearing starts and whatever, she needs protection. Her mother and father also needs protection. I want somebody to come to their house and pick them up just as y'all did for him.
I believe that was the sheriff's department, but that is
Well, I want to bring it to
you.
you. I want it to be voted on and I want them to protect it.
We can ask the question of the DA, how they plan to do any of that type of thing.
Okay, so can somebody get back with me with that?
I'll ask the question. I don't know how those decisions are made, but I can get back with you unless somebody else knows. No.
I don't. But it's
Because she does need protection. She got more hate emails than anybody.
It's a fair question, and I'll ask it for you. Deshaun Hines.
So, on the 25th of May, we were sitting outside the City Hall, and an officer for 17 years, he decided to attempt to, I guess, come together with the community. But from the second that he approached us, he didn't do anything but divide us. So, as we were discussing topics of the Steve Perkins supporters, he called us a low moral group of people, one of my great friends, because he used a curse word. Would you consider calling somebody low moral because they use a curse word? No.
Using a curse word, no.
Yeah. Okay, and also,
I certainly hope not.
And also, like I said, I've been a black male for my entire life. He is a white officer. He told me that I don't know the difference of racism between here and Lawrence County. Why are these officers still on duty if they feel this way? If they are coming to this community after 17 years, for the first time ever, coming up to us and their first thing is to do is to divide us, why is he still on duty?
I have no answer for that question. I mean, because I have no answer for that question.
All right, that's all I have to say.
I'll do my best. Jacqueline McDay. Okay, Justin.
Good evening. I had a couple questions, but first, thank you for what you did. I guess first I'll ask Pepper, why did you run for office?
To help people.
How so?
In any way that anybody needs help. If anybody says they need something that I can do, then that's what I ran for.
Have you felt that you've been effective in doing that?
Absolutely, and I would bet that there's plenty of people that would agree with that.
And in what ways have you done that?
Handling different, I guess you could say, grass complaints, neighborhood complaints, all sorts of complaints. When people call, they or supporting things in areas that are their neighborhoods.
What about you, Mr. McMasters? Why did you run for office?
Why did I run? I felt at the time Decatur was very stagnant. It had a poor perception. Residential growth was lacking. There were some infrastructure improvements that hadn't been made, be it, repaving roads, can never do that enough. We had some city services that were lacking, and it was suffering from an overall image problem. That's why I ran.
I'll finish with you, Mr. Leisner. Mr. Pike.
That's promising.
I had, at the time, I felt like I had the ability and the opportunity to have a positive impact, both on my district and the city, and saw a good chance for me to try that, and that's about it.
Follow up, do you feel that you've been effective as far as that goes?
Yes, to a degree. Of course, you never feel like you're as successful as you want to be, but I think we've seen residential growth tick up in the last 3.5 years. We've seen city services improvements. We've seen additional parks. Bain had an article Saturday about 3-4 neighborhood parks going in right now. Road resurfacing. It's not sexy, but we've spent a lot of money doing it. We're trying to. You heard about the SSO plan. That's another thing that's not very appealing to a lot of people, but it's something that had to be done. And you heard today where, it's like we're not just planning for today, we're planning for down the road. Infrastructure stuff, so.
What about the image?
Huh? Yeah, what about the image?
Yeah, the image, it's just kind of taken a beat in the last several months, you think? Yeah, it has. It has.
Do you think you've been effective?
I do. Do I think that I've made everybody happy? No. And that's just the nature of leadership. I think the nature of serving in a position like this, you're not going to make everybody happy. But I've told a lot of people, you may not agree with what I do, but I'm going to do what I feel is right based off the information, the feedback, what I have. And at the end of the day, if I were to decide to run again, people would have the opportunity to judge me by my actions.
Mr. Jackson?
You got to go back a ways.
Yes.
Why did you run for office?
I felt like my district was voiceless. I felt like it did not have the reputation that it deserved. And so I felt that it was sort of being overlooked. And I think it still gets overlooked. But I do think that it has a voice. So have I been effective? I can't answer that question. My constituents have to answer that question. And I've been elected 7 times.
So what about you, Mr. Lapp?
Yeah,
Why
I mean,
did you run for office?
I ran, if you want to ask specifically why, some of it's already been said. I did feel like, look, I'm raising a young family. I felt like we were getting left behind. Limestone County was the fastest growing county because of Athens for like 3 straight years. Huntsville has grown exponentially. Madison, of course, did it earlier in a couple of decades ago, but and I felt like we were kind of sitting around looking inwardly instead of seeing what was going on around us and not doing anything. And so I felt like you needed somewhat of a business type mindset. But specifically, the reason is because I had people that, frankly, are very wise, spiritual leaders for me that called me and said I should pray about potentially running for office. And I said, I don't have to because I know I don't want to, right? But the more I did that and had conversations with my wife and had a fortunate situation with work where my former employer was very open to allowing me to come here in the morning on a weekday once a month and have to leave early to go to different meetings and things. And it seemed like I was being told through prayer that that's something that I should do. So I did it. I hope I've been effective. There's no question that I have made mistakes. 100%. In the last 8 months, I've made mistakes. There are things that times I was frustrated. Y'all see it. You tell me every time you know what kind of mood I'm in when you see me sitting up here with my whatever. But probably could have been more empathetic at times. But I do have the heart that I want to do the right thing. And I know we've disagreed on how fast that needs to be done. But I do try to do what I think is right. And sometimes that's a little grayer than most people think. Let me give you this example this is nothing like that last 8 months, but I had a conversation with somebody that was mad about us building pickleball courts, right? Well, and she said, we don't want pickleball courts. And I said, a lot more people have called me and said, we want pickleball courts than people that said we don't. And every issue's like that, right? City council's hard because every issue is like 60-40. And the 60 that were with you on the first issue, the next one, 40 of those 60 are against you. So by the time you get done, you've made every single person mad about something. So, but I have just tried. What I learned quickly is just do what you think is right. And sometimes I've probably gotten distracted, and I apologize for that. But I hope I've done a good job.
Okay, and Mr. Pepper, going back to you, what goals would you like to accomplish during the rest of your tenure as city council?
Continued growth and a better relationship with people in my district. Continued growth in my district, and to continue to clean up my district. There's been some problems throughout the years with certain areas with people not taking care of their areas, and we've even had some animal problems. I'm sure everybody knows I'm big on animal cruelty. So we were able to put in place a tethering ordinance, which has been enforced on many different dozens of occasions throughout the city. But just continued growth in my district and to build better relationships.
How do you plan on doing that?
Well, number one with continued growth is, I guess, working with the residents in the area to ask what they want. What's something that you plan to see? What's the future that you plan to see in the area that you live in? I live on Motus Road, so I have a couple of houses next to me, and then there's a neighborhood in front of me. So There's larger areas throughout my district, and you may not want a restaurant or apartment complex sitting behind you, but Joe Blow neighborhood over here might want one. So just continued relationships like that.
Mr. Masters?
On the short term,
what goals would you like to accomplish during the rest of your tenure, and how would you go about accomplishing said goals?
I can tell you what goal I'd like to accomplish, but I don't know how to go about it. How about that? I think in the short term and going forward, there has to be a sense of healing with our community. We can do all the residential growth, all the great things we've done, which there have been some great things that have happened in the last 3 or 4 years. However, we have got to recognize that there has been a disconnect the last 8 months. Whether that's community listening sessions or reviews of this or reviews of that, it's you know, I feel like a broken record, and I don't mean to be, but it's going to take dialogue. It's going to take understanding. You've heard everybody up here say, you know, sometimes there's things that we can all agree on. Sometimes there's not. That doesn't mean you become combative. I've had conversations with lots of people. Sometimes we agree on this and we don't agree on this. But the one thing I've been able to do is go, well, okay, I've still, and I think Jacob said it in his press conference, where, you know, throughout this whole process, I can look over here and see people I didn't know earlier. I'm on a first name basis now. Do we always agree? No. But, you know, we've had conversations. I've learned stuff that I didn't know. And so in the short term, without bloviating, I think that's how do we come together as a community and take a step forward. And, you know, I'm optimistic with some of the things that have been, you know, announced in the last week or two, and I've heard from some people that saying, hey, this is a step in the right direction. So I'm hopeful for that.
I think there's plenty of people in this room that you'd probably engage with, and they would probably help you, guide you along that process. Like you said, you might not agree with everything, but I think compromises could be made to get to that point. What about you, Mr. Pike? What are your goals for the rest of your tenure, and how do you plan on attaining those goals?
You know, still want to continue to have an overall positive impact for my district and for the city. A lot of that takes communication. It takes being willing to do hard things and say hard things that you know you're going to be judged for. I'll continue to do that. I think I've done that, you know, this term. So, you know, there's a lot of, there's everything from this situation to quality of life, residential growth. I mean, you want to have a positive impact on all of those. So, you know, continue to discern on every vote what is or isn't best for my district and for the city.
Mr. Jackson.
People constantly talk about growth. I'm not real big on the growth aspect of it. I think that it's important that we take care of our city. I hear people talk about the amount of road resurfacing we're doing, which is actually minuscule compared to some councils I've been on, because other councils have spent more on road resurfacing and at a much lower cost because of inflation, of course. So, but I would love to see us just get back to basics and work on things, our drainage, our roads, our grass, I mean, because we're not going to be inviting to people if we have a nasty city. We're not going to be inviting to people if you got a cousin that you're spending the night with, you got a cousin next door that's got a real clean house and this person's got a nasty house, you're going to want to stay with the person in the clean house. And I think that it's important that we get back to basics as far as our spending, as far as our upkeep of our city. And I would love to see us do those things and not try to pat ourselves on the back for things when we don't know what's happened historically in the past.
Me, I guess if we got till November of 25, I mean, I hope to. We're going through a tough time that we need to really focus on getting through. The other stuff will come, but we got to have real focus. And, you know, you don't have to trust my motives or whatever, but that's my focus from now till November 2025 is to help us get through a really tough time. So,
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
thanks, Justin. Anything else from council? I do have one thing, and it has to do with what I just talked about, a mistake that I made a few months ago, and you're not going to like what I have to say, but I hope you'll hear me out and we can have conversations about it. Back in October, this is like not a scandal. It's all right. So back in October, y'all were here, and I was doing my best, and I feel like I have tried to do my best through this whole thing. It is not an easy job to run these meetings during the public comment. It's difficult to know. I mean, I had to stop tonight, and sometimes I let things go, and I get criticized from all sides, right? One thing I did back in October that had never been allowed, I had disallowed it multiple times, was the sharing of time. You cannot go to any municipality anywhere to a city council meeting that I know of and just sign in to give your time away. But I allowed it in the spirit and heart of trying to hear everybody in a difficult time. And I probably should not have done that. But I did, and I've allowed it for 7 months basically since then. We have got to get back to not doing that. And I understand that I'm not trying to silence anybody. Nobody has the constitutional right to sign in and give their time away, right? So I'm not doing that. If you sign in and you want to speak, you can. What we're going to do going forward, and I wanted to give everybody a warning, I didn't want to do it at the beginning of the meeting, is we're going to go back. I'm going to give you an extra minute to wrap up. So you'll get essentially 4 minutes to speak, but we're not going to do sharing of time anymore. I apologize. I made the mistake to allow that. Again, if you go back, there's video. Miss Andrea Hoffmeyer, you can ask her. Some of you know her. She tried to do this in some meetings. I didn't allow it. Some others tried to do it during some rezonings, and I did not allow it. But that's one change we're going to make going forward, is we're not going to allow the sharing of time anymore. After this meeting, if anybody has questions about that or concerns, I'm happy to talk about it. Again, it was my fault. I should not have allowed it in October, but we can talk about if you have any concerns about that. So sorry I did that, but that's where we're going to go from here. So thank you guys, and we are adjourned.